Okay, Erica. Well, thank you for joining me. Welcome to Beyond the Birth Story podcast.
Thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to be here, Alexa. I'm so excited. Thank you for the honor and the opportunity.
Absolutely. From your debut on Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, where I immediately fell in love with you, to now having you in my own space. And not to
Woo!
mention the last conversation we had. I adore you, and I am so
Mm,
excited to show you off to
well,
all of my listeners today. So,
thank you.
without further ado, I'll allow you to introduce yourself and we can dive in.
Sounds great. Well, I am Erica Lemke. I am a board certified clinical sexologist and certified sex and relationship coach, and also an author. So I wrote a book about, my goodness, it's almost been 5 years now, called "Feel Sexy Again: The Ultimate Guide to Reclaiming Your Sexual Confidence." That is a mouthful.
I love that though.
Yes, yes. But yeah, I have a private practice. I'm based in the Salt Lake City area of Utah. So I have a private practice, and then I also work for a virtual women and family healthcare, probably one of the largest virtual healthcares in the world, I think, called Maven Clinic, and that's where I have really kind of found my additional passions. I my first niche was trying to conceive. My first niche was like more midlife women and couples, but
Yeah.
with the Maven Clinic and the work that I do, I really found a really beautiful space where I'm working with people throughout the lifespan. So all the way from trying to conceive all the way through postmenopause, and just the stories and the people that I've been able to meet, and hopefully even make just a small bit of difference in their lives has just been so incredibly rewarding for me.
I love that. Well, I can definitely say I've reflected back on our conversation a lot when we first met. And speaking of trying to conceive, what does today mark for you?
So I was fortunate enough to be interviewed by Maven Clinic's chief medical officer, and it was about the fertility journey. And so my role was, most of the clients who I work with in this space, their number one kind of, when you have to write a pre-appointment note, like, why are you here? Sex is a chore. That is probably the number one thing that people say, especially in that space. So my job really is to get them to, connect with themselves. I think when it's very outcome based, we are not present in our bodies. We're not present with our partners in that space. So really working on getting embodied and really connected, not only to our partners but also to ourselves, because I think that's where we have to start.
Absolutely. I just actually recorded an episode for someone else's podcast and I said, okay, now I'm hopping on with you. And she's like, I need to listen to that episode. She's like, what's sex? I feel that. And she's a lost mom. She's a pregnancy after loss. She's all of the things. And so she's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. Cause I explained to her, I'm like, I want to deep dive into like reclaiming yourself, refalling in love with yourself after
Mm,
death occurs in your womb, or
yeah.
infertility when you grow up thinking that you're going to have babies one day, and then life hard stops you at the not making it easy,
Yeah.
and making it feel like an impossible thing.
Yeah.
And I can 100% see why that becomes a chore.
Yeah.
It's like you're
Yeah.
scheduling it, you have it in your calendar, your ovulations, your all of these things. Like, it is a job, and when you're not getting that outcome that you're wishing for and hoping for, I mean, how do you walk your clients and people that you meet through that aspect of it?
Well, I think that's what happens though, is that you see that divide that starts to get wedged, right? And the more that they're thinking of it in that space, the wider that gap is becoming. And the less they are looking forward to it. So my job really is to, again, come back to, how are those small, tiny little ways that they can start to rebuild intimacy? Because I think that's super important.
Mhm.
And I, maybe you and I talked about this before, but in my world, I think intimacy and sex can be very separate. We can have one without the other. And my definition is, intimacy is emotional connection, it's communication, it's really enjoying just being with your partner, and that friendship aspect. I think that's such a I think that's such an important foundation when it comes to
Absolutely.
relationships and by extension with sex.
Hmm.
So get them to the intimacy part. If that's struggling, I want to work on that first. But then also the connection that they have with their own bodies and both
Hmm.
partners, not just, I think women are like, we're taught about pleasure.
Hmm.
Men aren't taught about pleasure so much, right? Or they think pleasure equals orgasm. I mean, I
Exactly.
think that's the definition where I think we have a broader perspective of what that looks like.
Hmm.
So really imparting to both of them, whomever they are, heterosexual, not heterosexual, it doesn't matter. Just how can you connect with your body? How do you feel safe in your body?
Yes.
And
Yes.
especially after loss, that is a challenge.
Hmm.
And not only the safety aspect, then being present again with your own body.
Yeah. I feel like when I think of intimacy versus sex, I feel like intimacy is almost something harder to achieve because sex is like the physical, you know, activity of the equation. Yet, trying to find time to connect on the emotional level and communicate and all of these other things, like that to me is the hardest part.
Absolutely. And and speaking of that too, I think, I tell people all the time, we're either having sex or we're not. But
Mm-hmm.
the greater thing is that we're not talking about it. That's almost scarier than the act itself. And I see that so often in my clients. So often. So it's also teaching them to be brave, to be vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
because that's such a raw, and it's so personal, right? It's such a unique perspective for each person, but there's
Yeah.
so much that is layered when it comes to sex. And
Yeah.
even if we were to talk about something with our partners, like I think in our minds, like if we're judging ourselves or we're criticizing ourselves, I think we're almost like transposing, like that is what our partner is feeling about us, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
we just catastrophize. If I say this, he or she is going to reject me. They're going to leave me. They're not going to love me anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
so we put so much pressure on ourselves with that, but it keeps us then stuck in our heads in that sympathetic fight or flight, kind of environment where if we're in that headspace, we cannot get embodied. We can't be
Mm-hmm.
open to pleasure and just receiving the sensuality of life. If we are ready to armor up, we're not going to be prepared to like, oh, okay, just open up and let's, we're
Exactly.
we're not going to be in that space to do that.
I think especially too from like a loss perspective of you become so enclosed on yourself and like protected, and then to like essentially lay sprawled out on your bed, like that's vulnerable. That's like, here's my heart. Where is that, cozy protection that I've gotten so used to having?
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well, and the safety you said, and the safety, like our brains are always asking ourselves, are we safe?
hmm.
Always. And if we're not, nope, I see we're a little lagged. Are we okay?
Yeah, it'll catch up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Sorry.
No,
Um,
good.
but our brains are asking if we're safe.
Hmm.
And in every environment we're in, that is the question. So, if we feel a sense of safety, we are going to be more apt to be able to be present, to be connected, be in the present moment, which is also going to allow us to bond with our partners, to bond with ourselves, quite frankly. But if we don't feel safe, then none of that is truly possible. At
Hmm.
least not in a way that feels authentic and genuine for ourselves.
Yeah. Like it's not a job that we're just showing up to please our partner, that,
Yeah,
they got lucky that night.
exactly.
And I
Yeah.
think a piece of it too for me even personally is, loss aside, is like growing up, um it was made to almost be a shameful thing if you were a sexual person. And I'm not speaking like teenagers, I'm speaking like,
Hmm.
early
Yeah.
adults,
Yeah. Sure.
but you have multiple partners and stuff, and well, they're throwing around the word, slut or things like that, and so it's like, oh, like this isn't a good thing, pleasure's not good, like we shouldn't be like that. But the man should be out there putting themselves out there. It's okay that they have multiple partners, it's okay that they have all of these things. And so a little bit of that is still ingrained into me, but it's like, it's okay to
Mm.
enjoy it with your partner, right? Whereas it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know.
I know. Well, and you speak to something that I think is really, really important. So
Yeah.
on the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, we actually that was a big component of why I was there to like break the taboo, break,
Yes.
the shame around sex, the shame of desiring it, the shame of
Mhm.
talking about it, all of those things. And you don't have to come from a religious background in order to feel shame around sex,
Yeah.
right? It's what if we were 3, we were in the bathtub, we were playing with ourselves because it felt good,
Mhm.
because we are pleasureful beings. Pleasure's our birthright, and we know nothing but, we're not associating that with something that is negative
Yeah.
until maybe our caregiver or mom or dad says, "Oh, don't do that. Don't touch yourself. That's dirty. That's naughty." That
Mhm.
is that is getting ourselves already that script is already forming that
Mhm.
that's not that's bad, which means I'm bad. So every time
Okay.
I want to do that, now I have this shameful piece that might show up of like, I want to do this, but I'm so ashamed
Mhm.
because I want to, I want my pleasure. So
Yeah.
there's so much that's so wrapped up in that, right? I actually was on the Shameless Sex podcast a couple months ago, and we talked about this exact thing about,
Okay.
you know, how religious shame shows up. But I think it can be very cellular. If you're
Yeah.
brought up in that at birth, right? That's what you know, and your purity is attached to your worth.
Mhm.
For women, right? For women, your
Yeah.
purity is attached to your worth. So if you have sex before marriage, or if you even think that you're doing something sexual out of a relationship or a long-term relationship, oh man, there's a lot that can go on up here that's going to
Mhm.
mess with us.
And then only amplified once you fall in love and you find your person that you want to start a family with. And then let's just start there. Let's start at the trying to conceive when it's not going how you imagined it to.
Mm. Yeah.
How do you find that shows up? Because I feel like just speaking from loss is
Yeah.
like a lot of shame that my body allowed that to happen. And then I'm just supposed to go on to enjoy pleasure and all of this after, like it's a hard relationship. So let's unpack it.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it too is, I think so many people, and even so much of the work I do, talk about, you know, grief.
Hmm.
And obviously grieving the loss of, a child, but also grieving your identity.
Hmm. Oh, 100%.
And I think when people don't do that, they're masking, they're pretending. So I really talk to my clients about, maybe this is also something that you have to grieve your old self. You
Hmm.
have to grieve that, you have to process that. And then when you're ready, that allows you to make room for someone new, for who you want to be now and who you want to be in the future. But that's not a snap of the finger. It's a process.
Yeah.
It takes time.
Yeah. You're navigating so much, and grief is such a heavy thing to live with. And it's not necessarily something that you can understand, right? And so
Mhm.
not only are you like learning this new body and this new version of yourself, but like I've talked to people that their sex drive has completely dropped. And
Mhm.
sex is such an important part of your marriage and your relationships. And then when you're unable to, I don't even fulfill that,
Mhm.
not responsibility in your relationship, but fill that like, mm, help me out. What am I trying to say? You're kind of letting your partner down, right? If you're not able, like,
Yeah.
is it something with them? It's like, no, I
Right.
literally just can't find it in myself
Yeah.
to do that right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And I
use
do
like
th-
huge, yeah.
and I do think goes that does kind of go back to like feeling safe, right? Because if we don't trust our bodies, especially if something like this has happened, how can we begin to trust that again? How do we begin to take that first step, with our predictive brain saying, but what if it happens again?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of it too, is that we're already kind of extrapolating the possibility that that's possible.
Mhm.
And I think that's a big reason why we shut down, is because I don't want that to happen again. I'm so afraid of that happening again that I just don't want to do anything.
Hmm.
because then I won't risk that loss again.
Yeah, I guess it's all pretty tied together. Is at one point you're excited about the sex, you're excited about the outcome, you're excited as to where it could take you, and then all of a sudden it didn't,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's a lot to process. How do
Yeah.
we, like, after, just not loss in general, but, pregnancy and in walking that postpartum journey, I still laugh so hard when we were talking about body positivity last time. And I'm just like, you are one of the most body positive people I know. And so it's like, how can we really, hone in on that after the fact of like our stretched out bodies, our,
Yeah.
delivery doesn't go the way we want it to, top
Mhm.
that off with loss, but just in general, how are we really changing that outlook on ourselves and that narrative after having babies to rebuild that, body positivity and
Yeah. God, that's such a
self
great question.
confidence and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's we have expectations, right?
Mhm.
And usually they're high expectations.
Of
And,
course they are.
and then, we think that, our body is just going to snap back in a day, and some people do. And of course you're like, oh my God, like,
Yeah, that's
I mean,
offensive, but
all
all
that,
right.
right? Right. Exactly. But I think so I mean, I talk to my clients all the time. Our bodies have been under construction.
Mhm,
Think about it from it early on, right? And not just after you have a baby, things are going to go back to normal. There's a lot of work that is still happening with our bodies,
mhm,
every part of our system, right? So just allowing that, trying to find acceptance within that, and knowing that this is also like, and normalize it. Like, this is not just a singular experience. Like, there are so many women who are also struggling with this, who are also having that sense of like, why is my body betraying me right
mhm,
now?
totally.
Right. But then also, again, kind of grieving that part of us of, okay, well, I'm not 30 anymore. I'm not 20. I'm 55. I'm not even 45, right? I'm not even 50 anymore. And, and things happen to your body, right? So I think it's about really coming to terms with, can I love myself right now
Mhm,
and not look at, I'll be happy when I lose those 10 pounds. I'll be happy when whatever that is, dot, dot, dot. Because then we cannot find that sense of joy and pleasure and satisfaction if we are looking to our future self.
mhm,
Can we really just be, okay, I know I have work to do, but how can I find ways to love myself right now and
mhm.
enjoy my life right now instead of waiting for my future perfect self or whatever that is, right?
Exactly. And
So I
how
think
many
it's just a lot
minutes?
of, oh, sorry, I was just saying, no,
No.
it's a lot of mindset work around that.
Yeah.
Like, and coming to the point where it's like, how can I accept myself at the same time with knowing that I have goals in the future? But I think that's part of the work right there.
Yeah. It's okay to want more and it's okay to want different. And I think we, need to remember to take in the right now when it's so funny how, we can I see women at the beach and I'm like, good for you for just putting on your bikini that day. You don't have a six pack. Who does? Right?
Right.
But then I'll be looking at myself in the mirror and being like, oh God, like I can't do this. It's why do we do that? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I I don't want my pre-baby body back per se. Like it's created life. It's done all of these
Yeah.
things, but it's
Yeah.
again, growing up, we're wired a certain way, right? It's like magazines and TV shows. You need the flat stomach, you need the this, you need the
Ugh.
that, and
You
you
know,
need to bounce back. Like,
exactly. And but I think that's the other thing too. And that's a lot of what I talk about, not even with just my individuals, with my couple clients, that
mhm,
don't look externally. Like, don't look at your best friend or your sister to be the litmus test of like, are we okay? Are we normal? You have to find that within your own unit. You have to
Yeah.
co-create that for yourself.
Mhm.
And what makes sense for you, what's normal for you, what feels good for you. All that crap out there is just, it's sensationalism. It's people are getting paid to do this stuff. It's not.
Mhm.
And even when we have someone that maybe we admire, you never know what goes on behind closed doors. You might think that they've got it all figured out, but in truth, you have
Mm-mm.
a better life than they are because they're just putting on a mask for everyone else out there.
Exactly. How do you empower your clients to discover what it is that they find pleasurable?
Mm. Well, I mean, first of all, it's just like bringing it to the surface. Like, let's
Mhm.
talk about what is pleasure for you.
Mhm.
And if you don't know what that is, like, I feel like pleasure not only is our birthright, but I also think that it's our responsibility.
Mhm.
So I think so often, someone will say, well, my partner doesn't, pleasure me the way I want to. Are you actually asking your partner what you need? Are you telling them what you need? If you're not, then you have to take a look at that.
Mhm.
And even a step back further, if you don't know what your pleasure is, then that is your responsibility to find it.
Mhm.
So I have a lot of homework that I give my clients. A lot. I hope they like me for it. I hope so.
Right.
But
They have so much pleasure in their lives now, they don't know what to do with
Right,
it.
exactly. Well, that's my hope anyway. I mean, shoot,
Right.
you bet.
That's the worst thing I do for you. Good.
But but even something very simple because it's not just sexual.
Mhm.
I think that's when I do work with my clients, I talk about like the non-sexual part, the non-sexual pleasures, bringing sensuality into the mix. So I will give them. So I have an assignment called Awaken the Senses, for example, touch, taste, smell, sound, sight.
Mhm.
Brainstorm everything in those categories that make you feel make you feel at peace, may even make you feel energized, but make you feel like you are connected to your physical body, your kinesthetic body. Because I
Mhm.
think when we are in those moments, we are aware, we are present, even if it's for a brief second. But I think the more we can cultivate that in presence, when we get into more of a sexual or erotic context with our partners, we have more access to that pleasure. So I think that can spill over really beautifully into more of a sexual context. But we have to figure that out for ourselves and take the time to do it because we're worth it. We're worth
Mhm.
it. We deserve that.
Yeah. It is true. It's such a big thing in life is to, feel the joy, feel the pleasure, feel connected and comfortable communicating with your partner. But
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes that itself, like the communication part, can be such an
Oh,
extravagant barrier
I
to it
honestly
all.
think that is probably one of the things that I deal with most with my clients is how do you start that talk?
Mhm.
How do you just even start the conversation, right? So we do a lot of role playing through that. And my greatest gift is like when I can get both parties in the room, because usually I can start out, I mean, sometimes the couple shows up, but sometimes it's just one.
Mhm.
So if the other partner is comfortable coming on, then that's where the magic happens because they're both doing this together, right? It's not one
Mhm.
person saying, "Well, this is what my coach told me to do."
Yep.
Coming together and then being able to do it in vivo, right? And then
Yeah.
actually like going through scenarios so I can see them, you know, how are they communicating? Where are the barriers? And then giving them the tools to at least if even if anything else just to get one step closer to being able to feel that comfort. And let's be honest, I think we have to feel comfortable in the discomfort. And I can't
Mhm.
because that's how change happens.
Mhm.
We can't do if we're going to keep doing the same thing, the old saying, we have to do something different to create change, to
Mhm.
create a new result, right? We can't keep doing the same thing. So, but that's a scarier thing I think for most of us because we don't know what it's like on the other side. So, we will stay in the comfort even I think if that's keeping us small because
Mhm.
we're so afraid to know what's on the other side that we're just like, I'm not risking that. I know this right here. I can set my watch to it. Even if it's dysfunctional, even if it doesn't serve us, we'll often stay in it because it's too scary to go out and see what is like on the other side of the curtain or,
Mhm.
whatever that is, right? But I
100%.
think that's the work. That's really the crucial part of the work that I do with my clients is getting them to do something differently and then be consistent and see how like do a little tiny experiment.
Mhm.
Start with something so small. Can you do it consistently? Do it for a couple of weeks. How does that feel? For most of them, like, that was so easy. Why didn't we do this sooner? Or, I mean, but I think that's the part of it too, is them being able to, come together, kind of the
Mhm.
shared intention and
Yes.
then see what happens through that, right? Because it is about intention. And it's so easy to get complacent. So
Mhm.
easy to get complacent and just kind of like just go on autopilot, right? But it's harder. It's harder to be intentional. It's harder to do that hard work and take that energy and that effort and really try to do something that you haven't done before.
Mhm. And it can be very daunting, right?
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
how do
Oh,
we deep
yeah.
dive into this new unfamiliar territory, right? Which
Yeah.
brings me into like postpartum. Like,
Yeah.
for a woman too, like obviously everything is mixed around and moved around and stretched and everything, but for your partner coming in too, because they knew you before, they knew you during the pregnancy,
Mhm.
they watch you deliver, and then expect to get into bed 6 weeks later, right?
Yeah.
Not
Right.
expect, but like you
Right.
both want it, but how
Yeah.
can we navigate that new, like it's new, totally new.
Yeah, it's totally new. And and you're so right. And I think there might be on the side of the partner, I think sometimes the partner can be really scared.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to hurt you or it's just like this is all new territory and I don't know what to do with this, right? And
Hmm.
so I think it becomes a matter of like really just having like really gentle conversations around it, and again, talking about it. I think
Hmm.
that's such a hard thing to do, but getting the partner to understand like, "Hey, it's okay," like, but I'll tell them, "You things are different, and maybe you have to kinda start from scratch, go back to the drawing board, talk to each other, really express what's going on, go slow." And I think that's the
Yes.
bigger thing is go slow and really be able to like, listen to each other and just like be tuned into one another. So I think
Hmm.
that's the part with that whole, the sensuality and the pleasure. And I honestly, pleasure over performance. It is trying to get both couples, both partners to understand that what is your pleasure? And we said earlier, most men on the whole think that pleasure is orgasm, but pleasure
Hmm.
happens way before that. And that's where like if you can be present, being mindful. I do a lot of mindfulness and meditation work with my clients because if they can get embodied, they can be present with themselves.
Hmm.
Then they get to be in the construct with their partner at the same time. They're also having that like how amazingly connective and beautiful that can be
Hmm.
when they can get to that space. But it's again, it's a learning process and just being being kind and having a lot of grace and forgiveness for one another while they're navigating this newness.
Yeah. I think I often forget how like traumatizing it can be all for our partners to watch this all happen. And I've had 3 kids and it's still very like
Yeah.
alien like to me that then all of a sudden just you had sex one day and now there's like this full functioning human. And it's like,
So true.
ooh.
So
Like,
yeah, so I
oh
think that but
man.
you're so right though. I think it's just but almost too it's like it's a rediscovery. And I think that
Yes.
if people can really be open to that, like rediscovering who they are now.
Hmm.
Right? And being okay with, like, maybe shedding an identity that no longer serves them.
Absolutely.
And
It's like
again,
an
going back
opportunity
to,
for
like
growth.
yeah, but I think we have to grieve that in order to make room for that, to see what is possible,
Yeah.
and to shed that, you know?
I like that you keep bringing it back to like grieving, not just, you don't just grieve like the loss of someone else or the loss,
Right.
there's so many different kinds of grief
Yeah.
that you'll experience in your lifetime. And to expect it not to affect your sexual drive. Because I
Yeah.
know sometimes I'll see people post and it's like, am I broken? Like, where is my
Yeah.
sexual drive? What pills do I take to get it back? This and that. And it's like, no, there's something else
Yeah.
going
And I think
on.
it starts with also, like, that whole, like,
Yes.
loss of libido and
Yeah.
because I think they again, they want it to be something that's external. But I think
Hmm.
really it's how do I come to maybe I haven't loved my body. Maybe I feel like my body has betrayed me.
Mm-hmm.
How do I get back to a place of safety and presence and connection with my own body?
Yeah.
Love my body, my sensual, erotic, sexual body that can give me more access to that pleasure. And I think if we come from that space, I think, aside from like hormonal medical things that are going on, clearly
Mm-hmm.
contextual stress, those are all things that are our tank our libidos without question. But if we're not connected to ourselves, I think that actually has a big role in the libido factor.
Yeah, just looking at it from like that full mind body
Yeah.
perspective, right? Not just that physical activity that we want
100%.
to perform,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I love that you get couples in there, though. I think it's so important to
Oh,
have both
mm,
partners
yeah.
willing and not
Yeah.
just, I know there's some men out there that it's like, well, I deserve this. It's like, well, if you can't
Yes.
even have a conversation and
Yeah, but I'll tell
connect.
you though, it's just not if it's a heterosexual couple, it's not just the women who are coming to me,
Mm-hmm.
which I love the fact that if I have a husband that's coming in, like, oh, if they're the ones showing up first, it's like, oh, it just melts my heart. It really does, because you can see how much they love and want to support their partners, and their partners are struggling and they don't want to do, and they don't know what to do, and they're asking for help. And
Oh,
I think that to me is
yes.
like, oh, we need more of that. We need so much more of
Yeah.
that. So much more. Because then like because it's their journey too,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
their journey too.
And we are the fix it people. We want to fix things. We want to help. We want to support. And so, in what ways do you coach them through supporting their partner? Because we obviously have very different experiences and journeys and perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the biggest thing is like show up exactly where they are. Support them exactly where they are,
Mm-hmm.
not where we think they should be or where
Mm-hmm.
they think they should be,
Mm-hmm.
but start from exactly where they are and figure out what's needed right now in this immediate time. I think we can get caught up in what we need to do next, right? Or like,
Mm-hmm.
but what needs to happen right now? And maybe if anything else, they just need a damn hug.
Yeah, seriously.
They don't need to have sex right now, but they need that reassurance.
Yeah.
They need that, they need that, again, feeling safe, feeling protected, feeling loved, feeling nurtured. But I think, again, it's starting from where we are without any other expectation of what we should be doing.
Mm-hmm. I think the importance of like the hugs and the kiss and the cuddles and all of these without it always ending in
Yeah.
the actual act,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's sometimes all people need is
Yeah.
just to see that no, like you, to me, that's a way of showing that I really love you, and I have other
Oh,
ways that I can show that, right? I'm not
yeah.
just giving you the hug
Yeah.
because I wanna
Bang
do
you.
that. Bang
Bang you,
ya.
right.
Someone had to say it.
Leave it to me.
That's why you're here.
But that
It's so
also but
true.
that also brings me back to something that I will so there's a great exercise. It's in Barbara Carellis's book, oh my gosh, Urban Tantra.
Okay.
And I give this to my clients all the time. So it's called the heart connection. And essentially what it is, if there's enough safety, because I think that's a big part of it too, is
Mm-hmm.
that I'll invite my clients to like set a ritual. So set aside whether it's in the morning. I mean, this is a 3-minute exercise, right? So you hope they can find time. Although
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they struggle and they resist to do this,
Mm-hmm.
right? This does happen, but so what the intent is so they sit across from each other close. They put their hands on each other. So I am putting my hand on your heart or your chest. You're putting your hand on mine. We look in our non-dominant eye, which is the left eye. For some reason, the left eye is supposed to be less threatening when you're looking at somebody.
Oh.
So, and even if that feels like it's too much, you could look at the eyebrow. You could look at the ear, right? So you don't, if it's too like intense and you
Yeah.
don't want to look directly, you can look, somewhere else in that realm, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then all you do is you look and you breathe. And what you find is you end up oftentimes sinking the breath. But this is a 3-minute exercise that, if anything else, it is a way to say, I see you, I love you, I'm here, I'm connected with you. And so I might have them do that at the end of the evening. This does not mean, oh, now we're gonna, go do the,
Mm-hmm.
this is just an invitation to begin to start connecting on a very, I say simple, but sometimes it's not always so simple, because that can still be really scary for a lot of people, right? So and I'll say, if that's too scary to even touch, I might say that you sit away from each other and have personal space, and then you put your hand on your own heart, maybe your heart and your belly, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and then do the same practice. So maybe you're not touching, but you're still in the presence of your partner. And as
Mm-hmm.
they feel more confident and comfortable, then maybe they can get closer and actually touch, what as appropriate, and when they feel that sense of comfort. But I find that even that small little activity, if they've done it for, like, I'll have them say, like, well, do it for 2 days. Can you do it for 3 days? And
Mm-hmm.
just try to be consistent with this little activity. It has, like, volumes, like, just a total game changer for so many people. And that's
So
not leading
true.
up to sex. It's not going
Yeah.
into sex.
Yeah.
But I think we need that sense of, like, I want someone to see me
Mm-hmm.
before I'm going to get into a sexual context. I want them to see and love me, and have, just be present with me.
Mm-hmm. Even just listening to you say that, my breathing got deeper and deeper, and it's like
I love it.
just
I
like
love
looking
it.
at your hand. But it's truly when you have the weight and it feels safe and it
Yeah.
feels warm,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why is it
Yeah.
that looking into someone else's eyes is so
Oof. I mean,
I hate it.
I know. Well, I've done these exercises, and I probably actually done, like, when I've hosted workshops,
Mhm.
I've done this before, and had client and had the participants do it, but I've been a participant before. And I think it's just that old saying of, like, the windows are the eyes to your soul, right? Like, it feels
So
so
pinpointed.
vulnerable, right?
Yes.
And how often, like, I've done it where, like, you're laughing, like you can't do it. You have to look away, right? You can't do it. It's too
Yes.
much. Or the other experience I've had before is, like, I think it depends on who's in front of you too.
Mhm.
I think it's our energies. Like, so, like, I've been in front of someone where I'm looking at this person and we are crying. We're crying. And it's such a soulful, beautiful experience as well.
Mhm.
So it's really cool. Yeah, but I think it's really about vulnerability, and having someone see us as we truly are
Mhm.
in that snapshot of a moment.
Yeah.
That's intimidating for a lot of people. It could be
Yeah,
really
it
scary.
actually wasn't until I started podcasting, and of course you see clips and stuff and everything. Every
Yeah.
time I talk, it's like my eyes are closed. I'm like, bitch, open your eyes. You're annoying. But I'm like, and then when someone else is talking, I'm like, oh. And I'm like, why am I like that? But I mean, and now I know I do it day to day.
Yeah.
Or it's like I'll go talk
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, I just need to look over here or something. But you're talking and I'm all in, and I'm like, why? I'm like, don't look at me.
But I think too, like, when you feel like, just think about, a beautifully, a connected friend, right? A best
Hmm.
friend or someone, like, and when you can be in that space and you're just so there. You're
Yeah.
so there, and you're present, you're attentive,
Hmm.
and I think that we all at some level want that. It's in some way. I think there's just a lot of us who are just, like, fearful, we feel ashamed, we're,
Hmm.
whatever those things are, that, like, we are scared to maybe even just be ourselves in front of
Yeah.
somebody, you know?
And I feel like to be present too, because
Oh,
we
yeah.
always are thinking, oh, what's the next thing? What should we be doing? I need to go here next or here. And it's like, but what about the right now? Because then in an
Yeah.
hour, you're going to look back and be like, oh, well, I wish I would have done that different. Or why
Right.
wasn't
Well,
I so present then? Like, it's
yeah.
just
Yeah. Well, I'm trained
you
as a
yeah.
marriage and family therapist, so I got this beaten into me. Well, not beaten into me, but but authentic or active listening, right?
Yeah.
It's being fully open, that vessel of being fully open without already having like 3 questions in your head that you're going to ask this person, right? Like
Yes.
can you be like just fully present without any other agenda,
Mhm.
but just for the fact that you are there and you are fully present with this person and their experience.
Yeah, I love yeah. How many thoughts do they say like go out through your head a day? It's like an
And
astronomical
an exorbitant
amount.
amount, right? Exactly,
It's
right.
like no wonder I'm always like "Ah." It's so hard. Just and we are such a busy culture too.
Mm,
And then even that I think can sometimes
yep.
triumph that sexual desire of like, you know, you get ready for the day and then your husband wants to get frisky and you're like, I just did my hair.
Yeah,
And he's like,
exactly.
"Wait, you don't want it?" And I'm like,
Right,
I just
right.
don't want sex hair when I go to work. And then we do it. But anyway, it's like it's like all
Well,
these things that you kind of like you life just
yeah.
stacks up on top of you. And then you
Yes.
put a grief brain in there. And then you put
Yeah.
children in there.
Yeah.
And then you put work stress and all the
Yep.
stress, life,
Yep.
financials, like and
Your
then we
caregiving
wonder,
and
where's
then
my
maybe your
libido?
care and you're it right. And maybe you're taking care of an aging parent and raising your children and having a
Yes.
full-time job and, and,
Yep.
right? So much of what I talk to with my clients is like, and I say, most of these, most of them are stressed to the max, right?
Oh, it's crazy.
And
Mhm.
we do speak from that place of like, life is chaotic. We have busy lives, and we we make so I know this sounds like very prescriptive, but I will often tell clients to schedule dates, not even necessarily sex, they
Yes.
could do that too, but especially busy parents, right? Or of
Mhm.
parents of young kids, which can be a challenge, right? If they don't have daycare, but that's
Mhm.
when a time we get creative, right? But I think it's so important. Like we make appointments for our doctors. We make, we take time aside to go to the dentist, right? Are we doing that with each other?
Yep.
Because we are so busy, like make that even if it sounds like, well, that's not sexy, I don't care. Like at least start you have to start somewhere, right?
Mhm.
And we can make excuses the live long day, but I think and Emily Nagoski, who wrote Come As You Are, phenomenal book, also Come Together, about relationships, both phenomenal books. But she talks about like you have to prioritize your sex life. You
Mhm.
have to prioritize your sex life. I mean, most of us aren't didn't get together to be roommates. And I
Mhm.
know crap happens, right? Life happens, but
It's
if
so
we
easy to fall into that. Like the
so
amount of
easy.
like new parents or parents of young kids, like we literally feel like roommates.
Exactly. Well, and plus, and they're exhausted, right? And like they're
Yes.
exhausted. So again, that can just compile up and up and up and up, right? So
Mhm.
it's a matter of like, setting intentions, prioritizing the relationship, and communicating about that. So I think it goes back to communication. And if we're struggling, if we're grieving separately, and not finding that space to be able to come together and talk about, if there has been a loss. So many couples just, they're sleeping in other bedrooms or sleeping on,
Mhm.
way on the other side of the bed, how to start to gently turn towards each other and
Mhm.
start to find that connection again through grief as
Yeah.
well.
Which can be almost an impossible feeling task, right? It's
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
do you work with women to build, that relationship back up and forgive their bodies and give permission to move forward and worthy of desire, worthy of pleasure, worthy of all of these things after, you know, infertility, loss, all of the
Yeah.
things?
Well, all those words that you just said is exactly how I kind of frame that with my clients. Like you I'm if you're not giving yourself permission, then I'm going to give it to you.
Hmm.
Because I think that we don't give ourselves permission, right? Or we feel like that we're not worthy of that
Yeah.
pleasure.
How do I deserve that after
Hmm.
my body did this? Or,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. So it's really being very gentle. And I think with anything, it's like we have to take a step, not 20 steps, but a step. So for example, like I will say, like, what can you find pleasure in? And not to say that I don't want you, not happiness, but because I think happiness can have sometimes like, oh, okay, I'm not happy all the time. There's something wrong with me, right?
I feel
But
like joy is a better
joy, yeah, exactly. Where can you
term.
find pleasure, satisfaction, joy in the smallest things on a daily basis? So
Mhm.
for me, if I smell lavender,
Mm.
there's some, childhood memory that I have that's so strong that I am present in my body. I am at peace. I feel grounded. It could be for 2 seconds. But what that elicits in me is that, okay, I'm here. I'm here. I'm in like physical presence. I am here and
Mhm.
I'm with myself. And I think that gentle reminder, whether it's a smell or a piece of music or birds chirping or I live at the base of the Wasatch Mountains in Utah. So when I look outside my window, I see the mountains right in front of me.
Mm.
And that gives me just such a sense of peace and just groundedness. And I think that's where we can start. I think that's where we start is with that sensuality piece of it. And just recognizing that, like, I deserve this. I can sit here for 5 minutes and have my cup of tea and just be with myself.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think nurturing that, cultivating that, I think is so important to getting back on this road.
Yeah. And prioritizing that too, right?
Yeah,
I even
absolutely.
think back to the early days after loss too, and I would just sit outside to feel the heat of the sun on my face to remind myself I was alive, like,
Yes, yeah,
mm.
yeah,
Or whenever we go to the
yeah,
mountains, it's like, how can it be so serene here?
yeah.
Yet you go home and it's like your nervous system is like, woo.
Right. Well, and I think, and you're exactly right. So how do we deregulate to get back in the parasympathetic?
Mhm.
That is our rest and digest state, right? When we can come from that place, that's where we can receive. That's where we can find pleasure. That's where we can feel vulnerable. But we have to feel safe in order to
Mhm.
get to that space, right? So again, if our brains are telling us that we're safe, then we're coming from a different perspective of armoring up ready to fight, or run
Mhm.
or whatever it is.
I always love those memes where it's like my brain doesn't know the difference between a bear chasing me or, being stuck in traffic.
But you're right though. I mean, our
Yeah.
primitive, our reptilian brain doesn't know the difference.
Yeah.
So it's also recognizing that and like actually talking to clients about that because a lot of them aren't even aware of that.
Mhm.
So when we can even talk about that and kind of understand that a little bit better, then like, oh, okay, I see so a lot of the work I'll do is do breathing techniques, to do
Mhm.
deep diaphragmatic breaths and do more of that mindfulness where, you again, mindfulness based stress reduction approaches, like Dr. Lori Brotto has an amazing book called she's in your neck of the woods. Although I think she's in Ontario, I believe, but she wrote an amazing book called Better Sex Through Mindfulness: How Women Can Cultivate Desire. And it's all
Okay.
about mindfulness and mindfulness meditation, which I think is where we can get more access to connect with ourselves.
Mhm. As we're talking, I'm just like, I could breathe. I'm gonna need to meditate after this.
Well, and so I also do a practice. I haven't even really talked about this too much because I've been practicing it, but over the last couple of years, I've gotten certified in something called original strength. And original strength is basically like how we move when we first came into the world.
Mm.
And so you think about how babies, how do they start to move and find out within their environment, right? So they're using
Mhm.
their eyes, they're using their heads, they're breathing from their nose in and out through their nose because they're
Mhm.
nose breathers, right? So tongue on the roof of our mouth, strangely enough, closes the strange loop that allows our body to tell us, our brains to tell us that we're safe. So if we're breathing like this and we're shallow breathing,
Mhm.
we're sending a message to our brains that I'm not safe. So it's all of this, like, it's mobility movement, it's really gentle movement, but it's really working on our nervous system to get from that holy shit, I'm getting chased by a saber-toothed tiger, or I got
Mhm.
stuck in traffic and I want to flip this person off and go run them down, to I can be present with myself. I can be
Yeah,
present with my partner. I feel safe enough to just move around the world, move about my environment with clarity and authenticity and that feeling of safety and presence and connection with myself.
I love that. Okay, we talked a lot about the emotional and the mind body, and so I do want to dive a little bit into, I don't even know how to say this, like being confident, like for a woman specifically, all vaginas are different. How can we not be
All vaginas,
shameful?
all vulvas are different, right? So
Yes, yes,
as
vulvas.
you
I
might,
love it. I've been looking at
might
it the
see
whole
behind me, I know. I've only had maybe like 3 clients say, "Is that what I think it is?" It's like,
Yeah,
"Yes,
I've been looking at it the whole time.
that's
Like, it's
right.
gotta
Yes."
be.
Well,
Oh yeah,
and
baby.
and and I'll tell you, I think that's which, coming back to like the secret lives, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
them being so, well, we don't know what we don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, this is your vulva. This is not your vagina. So let's
Yeah.
just make sure that we can clarify that, because I think that, and I think it's really important whether we're learning it when we're 30 or we're learning it when we're 3, right?
Mm-hmm. And we do. We
From
just basically call it a vagina.
right,
It's
right.
just recently that I really dived into and obviously still
All the
learning.
parts.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm
exactly.
sorry.
Well,
And I've had
well,
them for
and you
30
know what?
years.
Yeah. Well, and but I think that's the beauty though. That's the beauty about our lives, right? Hopefully that we're learning every day,
Yes.
and we can get more comfortable, like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, great, now I have more information. This is
Yeah.
awesome, right? Which I think is so amazing. So yes, every vulva is different, and being able to, like, and again, I think the challenge is that, what we see in pornography, when we see
Mm-hmm.
all of these snipped and tucked and bare
Mm.
and supposed to look like a 12-year-old girl. No, this is not what the real world is like.
Yeah.
And being able to just, like, and again, I will give more homework to my clients, like, have you ever looked at your vulva? let's
Mm-hmm.
let's start there. If that's not the case, then let's go really slowly. And then also, a lot of my clients have never touched themselves, so let's even just delve in that. And so that's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And again, going back to the shame piece and embarrassment and how we were raised, and all of that plays, I mean, it just, we have all of these scripts that I think that have need to be either unraveled, or we have to create a new narrative for ourselves, right? That
Yeah.
is empowering, that is confident boosting, and like just owning who we are. That's the other part of it too. Own who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look at who else is out there and compare, because comparison is a thief of joy, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are always going to find fault in ourselves when we look externally, always.
Yeah.
So how do we just say, like, this is me? Do I still want to improve on parts of myself? Yes, absolutely. But I love myself now. This is what I have. This is my body. This is me. I am a unique individual. And if I could really, like, really come from a place of like true, authentic love and connection for myself in that space, man, there is no telling what we can do. Right?
Right? You about to feel all the
Seriously.
pleasure.
Exactly. And how confident, but like just how empowering that is for women to be able to
Yes.
just come from that space, non-judgment, not non-judgment of us, of ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
of others, right? Because I think we can be really critical of other women. So we all need to stop that right now
Yes.
and be supportive, be nurturing, be uplifting. Like when I see someone succeed, I'm not like, oh, what's wrong with me? Or that bitch, what she thinks she's doing. Like,
Exactly.
no, it's like, bravo, good for you, girl. And that empowers me to do my own work,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. Like, and it has to be an outlook and a mindset and a learned behavior. Because from a
Absolutely.
very young age, we're comparing ourselves to other
Oh,
people. And
all
it's
the
like,
time. How
man,
exhaust and how sad and exhausting that is, right? Like,
beyond.
really,
Yes.
really. So it's taken me a while. Like, I feel like I've kind of been confident in some ways throughout my life, but there were certainly times in my life where I didn't feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm 55, man. I'll tell you, I will continue to be confident and put that in front of everyone, because if someone thinks, oh, she's full of herself or whatever, like, I don't give a shit about that.
Yeah.
Like, I know myself and I am very, very confident to say, like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm really okay with that. And I'm
I love
modeling that for my
that.
daughter. My daughter's 23. I'm
Yeah.
modeling that behavior for her.
Absolutely.
I want her to be a confident, independent woman. Like, you go,
Yeah.
girl. Like, that's my dream is
Exactly.
for her to have that, just that sense of like, I can do anything. And I love who I am. I love how I look. I love what I do, like all of those things, right? I think that's so important as a parent
Mm-hmm.
to be able to instill that in our kids. And it has to
Yeah.
come from us, right? We're
Yeah.
modeling that for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I have even friends from the past that they look at themselves in the mirror in front of their young girls. Look at my legs, they're fat. Look at my belt, and I actually told one of my girlfriends, I said, they're watching you
Mm-hmm.
and they're gonna follow in your footsteps if you keep this up.
Yeah. It's like, would you ever tell them that? No.
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 And I love the saying is in treat yourself like someone you love.
Mm-hmm.
Because guess what? If I were to talk to my best friend how I would talk to myself negatively, she would be long gone.
Yeah, he would have no friends.
Right? But why do we do
It's
that to
so true.
ourselves?
Yep.
We have to stop doing that to ourselves. It's not serving us.
No,
And it's not
not at
serving
all.
anyone else around us either.
I love that. What would be like your biggest piece of advice for a woman, a partner going through a journey of rediscovery?
Mm. Well, I would say take time,
Mm-hmm.
know your worth,
Mm.
and know that anything's available to you, but you have to be able to ask for help and understand that like we learn in community. I don't think we can learn in a vacuum. So ask for the help that you need. I think that is the strongest thing that we can do,
Mm-hmm.
especially as women, because we're giving, giving, giving all the time, right? But how often is it that we are actually asking for something? Because
Never.
we think of it as a weakness, right? Well, we think of it as a
Exactly.
weakness. So
Yeah.
let's turn that into our superpower, quite
Mm-hmm.
frankly. Because when we can come from that place, then like everything is possible.
I love that. If our listeners want to find you, where do they do that?
Yeah. So let's see. So they can so I have a website, sex coach SLC as in Salt Lake City.com.
Okay.
I am on LinkedIn as Sex Coach SLC. On Instagram, I'm actually under I am Erica Lemke. Don't get me started, but yeah. But then
She
if
is Erica
I am.
Lemke.
Well, when I went in, it was like someone had taken my name. Are you kidding me? Like,
How dare they?
how dare they? Right? But yeah, I think it's more empowering. Like, I am Erica
Now I
Lemke.
wish I would have introduced you like that. She is. She is the.
That's right. That's right. But also too, like for any of your listeners, like I did write a book about sexual confidence.
Yes.
I
What is the
it's
title of it?
it's
Have you told us?
Feel Sexy Again, the ultimate guide to reclaiming your sexual confidence. Again, it's a
Yes. Okay.
mouthful.
Yes.
It is a small guide. So I mean, I don't want people to think like you're going to getting a 300-page, tome. It is a small guide, but it's an 8-step process. It's
Okay.
the first book
Cool.
I ever wrote, and I know I have more in the coffers, but like I had to get something out there. So at least I can say
Yes.
I am an author. But if
Powerful.
anyone wants that as a PDF, like it's on Amazon, you can buy it. It's on
Yeah.
Audible as well. But if they want like a free PDF, they can email me. And alongside books, I have a lot of resources, like just a lot of like, references for, coming back to yourself, like even like the Awaken the Senses. I have that. I have reflections on sensuality and how to kind of rediscover that self. I am happy, more than happy to send those resources to anyone who's interested. So I will give you my email, and I would be happy for them to reach out if they like. And it is Erica, Erica at sexcoachslc.com.
I love that. Thank you for providing a great resource for our listeners. I know that they will
My
love this
pleasure.
conversation just as much as I did, and
Absolutely.
this one is super relatable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should say too, like, I do have
Yeah.
private practice. So if anyone wants to actually work with me as a coach,
Mm,
then they can also email me, or they go to my website and there's an acuity page that they can set up a consultation. So just, if anyone is looking to, get more support around this too, that I am definitely available to help with that as well.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a
My
long time coming.
absolute pleasure. Yes. I know. We've like wait since what, July or something, or even before that, maybe.
No,
It's
babe,
kind of
like May,
Oh, it was
June.
May. You're right.
Yes,
Oh
it
my
was
gosh,
around
it is.
your foot.
It's
We
right.
met around the
That's
foot.
well, and thank God that is progressing finally. I love. Oh my goodness.
Note to self: don't get surgery before summer.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
I know, right? Yeah. Well, I will tell you, Alexa, it's such an honor. Like when you reached out to me, I was like, I have to do this. I just felt like we talked about before, like we've known each other in another life or something. Like it just felt so easy and so natural. And I just adore you and just thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been wonderful.
I wish you could have seen me watching your episode and
Oh,
immediately on my Instagram, I'm like, "What's his name?" And then you answered.
well, it was serendipity, right? It was meant to be.
Well, we're here for a reason, and I
You got
appreciate you
it.
so much.
Oh, back at you, girl.